Your words have a secret nobody told you about. And I'm going to prove to you right now that they're literally creating your reality, whether you know it or not. What if I told you that every single word you speak to yourself is a spell? And what if the people who understood reality from the beginning, the wizards, the priests, the ancient teachers, they knew this? There's a reason they guarded language like a sacred weapon. Because words aren't just sounds. They're not just communication. They're encoding mechanisms. They're reality shapers. And if you don't control them, they control you. Listen, you've been speaking to yourself your entire life. Every single day. Thousands of words. But nobody ever taught you that those words were literally programming your subconscious, shaping your emotions, directing your actions, and ultimately creating the circumstances you're living in right now. And here's what they really don't want you knowing. Whoever controls language controls perception. And whoever controls perception controls reality. So let me ask you something. What have you been saying to yourself lately? I'm not good enough. I can't do this. I'm broke. I'm stuck. Nothing ever works out for me. You think those are just thoughts? You think those are just descriptions of how you feel? No, those are spells. Those are curses you're casting over yourself every single time you speak them. And your subconscious, it doesn't argue. It doesn't question. It just says yes and starts arranging your reality to match exactly what you told it. But here's the beautiful part. Here's what changes everything. The moment you understand that your words are spells, the moment you get that speaking to yourself correctly literally reprograms reality, you gain total power. You become the magician. You become the creator. You become sovereign over your own experience. And I'm going to show you exactly how this works. Not theory, not wishful thinking. Actual mechanics, the metaphysics, the neuroscience, the proven experiments, and the practical steps you can take right now, today, to start speaking yourself into a completely different reality. Because once you speak to yourself correctly, reality is yours. Now, let me introduce you to someone who understood this at a level most people never reach. Florence Scovel Shinn, early 20th century metaphysical teacher. She wasn't famous like some of the gurus you hear about today, but she understood something profound. She understood that words are magical wands. That's what she called them. Magical wands capable of manifesting success or failure depending on how you use them. And she taught something very specific. She said there are two types of speech, cursing and blessing. And most people, without even knowing it, are cursing themselves all day long. Every negative statement, every complaint, every time you say, I can't, or I'm not, or I'll never, that's a curse. You're literally casting a spell of limitation over yourself. And your subconscious receives it. Your emotional state shifts. Your vibrational field contracts. And reality responds by giving you more of exactly what you declared. But then there's blessing. Blessing yourself. Blessing others. Speaking life. Speaking possibility. Speaking abundance. This isn't just positive thinking. This is spiritual magic. This is how you shift vibrational fields. This is how you open portals to miracles, to opportunities, to experiences that seemed impossible before you changed your speech. Shinn was obsessed with affirmations, and not the weak kind, where you half-heartedly mumble something you don't believe. No. Commanding affirmations, declarations, reality instructions. She would say things like, new doors of activity open for me. Endless good now comes to me in endless ways. I am a perfect channel for infinite supply. Present tense, absolute, no doubt, no negotiation, command. And here's what she understood that most people miss. Affirmations aren't about convincing yourself of something. They're about reprogramming your subconscious. They're about silencing the old limiting spells you've been casting for years and installing new ones. They're about directing reality through intentional language. Because language is the bridge between consciousness and manifestation. Your thoughts generate emotions. Your emotions drive your speech. Your speech becomes action. and your actions create reality. That's the sequence. That's how it works. And speech is the most immediate, most accessible action you have. You speak 16,000 words a day. That's 16,000 opportunities to cast spells, 16,000 chances to program your reality. The question is, what are you programming? Now let's talk about how this actually works mechanically, because I need you to understand this isn't mystical nonsense. This is how your brain functions. This is neuroscience. You have beliefs, most of them installed when you were young, before you could critically evaluate them. Your parents, your teachers, your environment, they spoke words over you, and you absorbed them. You're not smart enough. Money doesn't grow on trees. You have to work hard to succeed. Don't get your hopes up. All of those became beliefs. And beliefs are just thoughts you've repeated so many times they became automatic. They became neural pathways. They became your operating system. And here's the critical part. Those beliefs run in the background constantly, generating self-talk. Internal dialogue, the voice in your head that never shuts up. And most of it, negative, limiting, critical, fearful. Because that's what you were programmed with. But here's what Trevor Mode, a neuroscientist and performance coach, discovered. External language, what you actually speak out loud, has 10 times the influence of internal thoughts. 10 times. When you speak something, your brain processes it differently than when you just think it. It becomes more real, more concrete, more powerful. And get this, negative speech has 40 to 70 times more impact than positive speech. Why? Because your brain is wired for survival. It's designed to scan for threats. So when you say something negative, your brain treats it as critical information. It prioritizes it. It reinforces it. It starts looking for evidence to confirm it. So when you say, "I'm terrible with money," your brain goes to work finding proof. It highlights every financial mistake. It overlooks every win. It creates confirmation bias that locks you into that reality. You're not terrible with money because you're inherently bad at it. You're terrible with money because you keep speaking that spell and your brain obeys. But the flip side, when you start speaking new words, "I am wise with resources. I attract financial flow. I make smart decisions." Your brain starts looking for evidence of that instead. It starts noticing opportunities. It starts shifting your behavior. It starts creating the neural pathways that support that new reality. This is why affirmations work when done correctly, not because they're magic in the mystical sense, because they're reprogramming your subconscious through repetition and emotional engagement. You're dissolving old neural pathways and building new ones. You're starving the old beliefs of oxygen and feeding new ones. Let me give you a real-world example. Bill Buckner, 1986. World Series, Game 6. Bottom of the 10th inning. Red Sox leading. 1 out away from winning their first championship in 68 years. Ground ball to first base, routine play. Buckner's made that play 1,000 times in his career. And he missed it. The ball went through his legs. The Mets won. The Red Sox lost the series. And Buckner became infamous for one error. But here's what nobody talks about. Before the game, Buckner said something to a reporter. He said, "The dreams are that you're going to have a great series and win. The nightmares are that you're going to let the winning run score on a ground ball through your legs." He spoke the nightmare. He cast the spell. And his subconscious delivered exactly what he programmed. That's not coincidence. That's how this works. Words create subconscious patterns. Subconscious patterns influence behavior. Behavior creates outcomes. You think you're just describing possibilities when you speak fears out loud. But you're not. You're programming them. You're making them more likely. You're collapsing probability into the very outcome you're afraid of. Now let's talk about Dr. Masaru Emoto, because this is where it gets visual. This is where you can actually see the impact of words on physical matter. Emoto took water, just regular water, and he exposed it to different words and emotions. He'd write words on paper: love, gratitude, hate, you make me sick, and tape them to containers of water. He'd play music with different emotional frequencies. He'd have people speak to the water with different intentions. Then he froze the water and photographed the crystals under a microscope. Water exposed to love and gratitude. Perfect, beautiful, symmetrical crystals. Sacred geometry, absolute structural harmony. Water exposed to hate and you make me sick. Chaotic, broken, distorted formations. Ugliness, dissonance. Now think about this. Your body is 70% water. Every cell, every organ, every system, mostly water. And you're speaking to yourself 16,000 words a day. Every word is creating either coherence or chaos in your body. Every negative statement is literally distorting the structure of your cells. Every positive statement is creating harmony. This isn't a metaphor. This is vibrational influence. This is frequency affecting matter. Your words carry vibration. That vibration impacts the water in your body. The water responds by restructuring itself. And that restructuring affects your health, your energy, your emotional state, everything. When you say, I'm exhausted, you're not just describing how you feel. You're instructing every water molecule in your body to match that frequency. You're creating exhaustion at the cellular level. When you say, I'm energized, I'm vibrant, I'm alive, you're restructuring your internal environment to match vitality. You're creating coherence. You're literally healing yourself through speech. Emoto's work proves what mystics have been saying forever. Words are creative forces. They don't just describe reality, they shape it, they encode it, they manifest it. So here's the question. What are you encoding into your body right now with the words you speak to yourself? Now let's get into the real mechanics of breaking free, because understanding this is one thing. Actually changing your speech patterns, that's where transformation happens. Most of your limiting beliefs are spells. They're programs running in the background, generating automatic speech. I'm not good enough. I can't afford it. I'm bad at relationships. I'm not creative. I'm unlucky. These aren't truths. These are spells you've been casting so long you forgot they're spells. And here's the key. Spells only have power if you keep speaking them. The moment you stop, the moment you refuse to give them voice, they start losing power. You're starving them. You're cutting off their oxygen. And eventually, they dissolve. But most people never stop. They just keep repeating the same limiting beliefs year after year, wondering why nothing changes. And nothing changes because they're casting the same spells, creating the same reality, living in the same loop. So step 1, identify the spells. What do you say to yourself regularly that's negative, limiting, disempowering? Write them down. Get them out of your head and onto paper where you can see them clearly. I'm always broke. I'm terrible at this. I never get what I want. I'm not attractive. I'm too old. I'm stuck. Look at that list. Really look at it. Those are your current reality commands. Every time you speak one, you're instructing your subconscious, your cells, your electromagnetic field, and reality itself to match that frequency. Step 2, stop speaking them immediately, completely. This is non-negotiable. Every time you catch yourself about to say one of those spells, stop. Mid-sentence if you have to. Refuse to give it voice. Because every time you speak it, you reinforce it. You make the neural pathway stronger. You give it more power. And I know what you're thinking. But it feels true. I am broke. I am stuck. Listen, it feels true because you keep declaring it true. You're observing that reality into existence through your words. But you can observe a different reality just as easily by changing what you declare. Step 3, install new spells. For every limiting belief, create a power statement. Not the opposite. Not, I'm rich. When you're broke, because your subconscious will reject that as false. But a bridge statement, a statement that's true enough to accept, but directional enough to shift you. I'm always broke becomes, I'm developing financial wisdom. Money flows to me in increasing ways. I'm terrible at this becomes, I'm learning and improving every day. I'm stuck becomes I'm in a chapter of gathering information and preparing for my next phase. Feel the difference? You're not lying to yourself. You're redirecting. You're opening possibility. You're speaking process instead of permanence. And then you repeat these out loud, in a mirror if possible. Morning and night, minimum. Why? Because repetition creates neural pathways. Repetition programs the subconscious. Repetition makes the new spell stronger than the old one, until eventually the old one has no power left. This is neuroscience. This is how you rewire your brain. This is how you dissolve limiting beliefs and install empowering ones. The Bible understood this thousands of years ago. Proverbs 18:21. Death and life are in the power of the tongue. Not influenced by, not affected by, in the power of. Your tongue determines whether you're creating life or death in your experience. Your words are that powerful. Your speech is that creative. And you've been using it unconsciously, randomly, carelessly, your whole life. But now you know. Now you can't unknow it. Now every word becomes a choice. So here's your practice. Here's what you do starting right now, today. For the next 24 hours, become aware of your words. Every single thing you say to yourself. Don't try to change it yet. Just notice. Observe without judgment. How many times do you speak limitation? How many times do you curse yourself without even realizing it? Write them down. Track them. Because awareness is the first step. You can't change what you're not aware of. Then identify the top 3 spells you cast most frequently. The 3 limiting beliefs you say to yourself over and over. Those are your targets. For the next 7 days, refuse to speak those 3 spells. Every time you catch yourself about to say one, stop, rephrase, redirect. Speak the new spell instead. The empowering one. The one that opens possibility instead of closing it. And watch what happens. Watch how your emotional state shifts. Watch how your behavior changes. Watch how opportunities start appearing that weren't there before. Not because reality changed. Because you changed your frequency. You changed what you're broadcasting. And reality is responding to your new signal. This is the real magic. This is spell casting. This is how you take control of your reality by taking control of your speech. Florence Scovel. Shin said it best. Your word is your wand. And you're the magician. You always have been. You just didn't know you were casting spells. But now you do. So cast wisely. Cast consciously. Cast with the full understanding that every word you speak to yourself is programming your subconscious, shifting your vibration, and creating your reality. Speak life. Speak power. Speak possibility. Speak abundance. Speak health. Speak joy. Speak freedom. And watch your reality bend to match your words. Watch circumstances shift. Watch doors open. Watch your life transform. Not because you got lucky. Not because the universe suddenly decided to bless you. Because you remembered you're the creator and you started speaking correctly. You are not powerless. You just forgot how powerful your words are. But now you remember, and reality is yours for the speaking. Because here's what they never told you. Here's what got buried under layers of distraction and noise. The moment you master your speech, the moment you understand that talking to yourself correctly is literally the difference between limitation and liberation, you become ungovernable. You become dangerous to every system that depends on you staying small, staying confused, staying trapped in unconscious patterns. And they know this, the elite, the people who run the systems, the ones who control media and education and language itself. They know that whoever controls your internal dialogue controls your life. So what did they do? They programmed you with limiting vocabulary from birth. They gave you phrases designed to keep you stuck. They taught you to speak lack, to speak fear, to speak limitation, and to call it being realistic. But realistic is just another spell. It's a limitation disguised as wisdom. Every time someone tells you to be realistic, what they're really saying is, stay in the box. Don't expand. Don't dream. Don't speak possibility into existence. Because if you do, you'll realize you're more powerful than we told you. And listen, I get it. You've been conditioned your entire life to dismiss this, to laugh it off, to think that words are just words, that they don't really matter, that what you say to yourself has no real impact. But that conditioning, that's the spell. That's the programming. That's exactly what they need you to believe. So you keep using your creative power against yourself instead of for yourself. Think about the language you were taught as a kid. Sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. That's not protection. That's programming you to dismiss the most powerful creative force you have. Words absolutely hurt. Words create. Words destroy. Words heal. Words curse. Words bless. And the people who taught you that rhyme knew exactly what they were doing. They were disarming you. They were making sure you'd never understand the weapon you were holding. Now let's go deeper into the mechanics, because I want you to understand this isn't just spiritual theory. This is how your nervous system actually functions. Every thought you think generates a chemical response in your body. Every emotion you feel is literally a cocktail of neurochemicals flooding your system. And your speech is the bridge between thought and action. It's the moment your internal world becomes external. It's the moment potential becomes manifest. When you speak something out loud, several things happen simultaneously. Your ears hear it. That's auditory input. Your brain processes it as information coming from outside yourself, which makes it more credible than internal thought. Your vocal cords vibrate, creating frequency that resonates through your entire body. Your nervous system responds by either expanding or contracting based on whether the words are empowering or limiting. And here's the part that changes everything. Your subconscious mind cannot tell the difference between reality and imagination. It cannot distinguish between something that actually happened and something you vividly described. So when you speak to yourself, when you declare something with emotion and conviction, your subconscious treats it as fact. It says, okay, this is what's true. This is what's real. Let me align all systems to match this reality. This is why affirmations work when you do them correctly. Not the weak, half-hearted kind where you mumble something you don't believe while scrolling through your phone. No, I'm talking about full-body, emotional, convicted declarations. Standing in a mirror, looking yourself in the eyes, and commanding reality with absolute certainty. I am powerful beyond measure. I am a magnet for abundance and opportunity. I am worthy of everything I desire. I am the creator of my experience. I am unstoppable. Say those out loud right now. Actually say them. Don't just read them. Speak them. Feel the vibration in your chest. Notice how your body responds. Notice the shift in your energy. That's not placebo. That's not wishful thinking. That's your nervous system recalibrating to match the frequency of what you just declared. And when you do this consistently, not once, not when you feel like it, but every single day with discipline and intention, you're literally rewiring your brain. You're creating new neural pathways. You're dissolving the old limiting beliefs that have been running your life on autopilot. You're installing new programming. You're becoming the conscious architect of your own reality. Florence Scovel Shinn understood this at a level that's almost scary. She knew that blessing is spiritual technology. Not just being nice, not just positive vibes. Actual energetic restructuring. When you bless yourself, when you speak words of life and abundance and possibility over yourself, you're shifting your vibrational field. You're changing the electromagnetic signature. You're broadcasting into the quantum field. And the quantum field responds by collapsing probability into circumstances that match your new frequency. This is why she was obsessed with specific affirmations. She didn't just say, I hope good things happen. That's weak. That's wishing. That's powerless. She said, Infinite Spirit, open the way for my immediate supply. Let all that is mine by divine right now reach me in great avalanches of abundance. Feel the difference? That's a command. That's a decree. That's speaking as the creator, not as the beggar. That's claiming what's already yours by right of consciousness, not hoping the universe might throw you a bone if you're good enough. And this is where most people fail. They speak from lack. They speak from unworthiness. They speak from doubt. I hope I can do this. I want to be successful. I need more money. I wish things would get better. Every single one of those statements is a spell of limitation. Everyone is broadcasting lack. Everyone is telling the universe, I don't have it, I'm not it, I'm separate from it. But when you understand that you are the creative force, that you are consciousness itself wearing a body, that you are the observer collapsing quantum possibility into form, then you speak differently. You stop asking. You start declaring. You stop wishing. You start commanding. You stop hoping. You start knowing. I am abundant now. I create wealth effortlessly. I am the source of my supply. Everything I need flows to me naturally. Those aren't affirmations. Those are identity statements. Those are reality codes. Those are spells of creation spoken from the position of power, not from the position of lack. Now let me show you something about how limiting beliefs actually work. Because once you see this, you can never unsee it. And once you can't unsee it, you can't keep unconsciously empowering them. A limiting belief is just a thought you've repeated so many times. It became automatic. That's it. It's not truth. It's not reality. It's just a pattern, a neural pathway that got reinforced through repetition until it became your default programming. I'm not good enough. Where did that come from? Maybe a parent said it once. Maybe a teacher implied it. Maybe you failed at something and decided that's what it meant. And then you repeated it over and over, in your head, out loud, to friends, to yourself in the mirror. I'm not good enough. I'm not good enough. I'm not good enough. And every time you said it, you strengthened that neural pathway. You made it more automatic. You made it more believable. Until eventually, you didn't even question it anymore. It just became the truth about you. But here's what's wild. That belief has no power except the power you give it by continuing to speak it. The moment you stop speaking it, it starts dying. The neural pathway weakens. The belief loses energy. The spell dissolves. This is neuroscience. This is how neuroplasticity works. Your brain is constantly reorganizing itself based on what you use and what you don't use. Pathways you activate regularly get stronger. Pathways you stop using atrophy and eventually disappear. So when you consciously stop speaking a limiting belief, when you catch yourself before the words come out and you redirect to something empowering instead, you're literally starving that old pathway. You're cutting off its oxygen, and simultaneously, you're feeding a new pathway. You're building new wiring that supports the reality you actually want. This is why Trevor Mode's research is so critical. He found that external speech has 10 times the influence of internal thought. 10 times. That means what you actually say out loud matters exponentially more than what you think silently. And negative speech has 40 to 70 times more impact than positive speech because your brain is wired to prioritize threat detection. So every time you speak a limitation out loud, I can't do this. I'm terrible at that. I always fail. Nothing ever works for me. You're not just thinking it. You're encoding it. You're making it neurologically real. You're giving your brain a priority directive to find evidence for that statement and to behave in ways that confirm it. But flip it. Start speaking empowerment out loud. I'm learning. I'm growing. I'm capable. I'm resourceful. I find solutions. Things work out for me. And your brain goes to work finding evidence for that instead. It starts noticing wins. It starts highlighting opportunities. It starts creating confirmation bias in your favor. This is how Bill Buckner manifested his nightmare. He spoke it out loud to a reporter before the game. The nightmares are that you're going to let the winning run score on a ground ball through your legs. He gave his subconscious a clear instruction, and his subconscious delivered exactly what he programmed, right down to the specific detail. You think that's coincidence? You think that's just bad luck? No. That's the power of spoken words creating reality. That's a spell cast unconsciously that manifested precisely as declared. And you're doing the same thing every day. Maybe not about baseball, but about your finances, your relationships, your health, your career. Every negative statement you speak about yourself is a spell. Every fear you voice is a program. Every limitation you declare is an instruction to your subconscious and to reality itself. But here's the beautiful part. Here's why this isn't depressing. Once you know how it works, you can use it deliberately. You can become conscious. You can stop casting spells of limitation and start casting spells of creation. Dr. Emoto's water experiments prove this visually. Water exposed to love creates perfect crystals. Water exposed to hate creates chaos. And you're 70% water. Every word you speak to yourself is restructuring the water in your body at the molecular level. Every negative statement is creating distortion. Every positive statement is creating coherence. This isn't a metaphor. This is vibrational physics. Your words carry frequency. Frequency affects matter. Matter, including your body, responds by restructuring itself to match the frequency. This is why people who speak life live longer. This is why people who speak negativity age faster, get sicker, experience more chronic pain. The water in their bodies is literally responding to the frequency of their words. When you say, "I'm so tired," you're not describing fatigue. You're creating it. You're instructing every cell in your body to match that frequency. And they do. They have no choice. They're listening. They're obeying. When you say, "I'm energized, I'm vibrant, I'm alive," you're restructuring your cellular environment to match vitality. You're creating coherence. You're literally generating energy at the physiological level through the frequency of your words. This is why blessing yourself works. This is why affirmations heal. This is why conscious speech transforms reality. Because you're not just thinking different thoughts. You're broadcasting different frequencies. You're restructuring matter. You're encoding new realities at the quantum level. And the moment you get this, the moment you feel it, you can never speak carelessly again. Every word becomes intentional. Every sentence becomes sacred. Every conversation with yourself becomes a conscious act of creation. Now here's your practical roadmap. Here's exactly how to implement this, starting today. Step 1, awareness. For 24 hours, just observe. Don't try to change anything yet. Just become aware of every single thing you say to yourself, out loud and internally. How many times do you speak limitation? How many times do you curse yourself? How many times do you declare lack, fear, unworthiness, impossibility? Write it down. Track it. Because you can't change what you're not aware of. And most people are completely unconscious of the spells they're casting all day long. They're on autopilot, repeating the same limiting beliefs year after year, wondering why nothing changes. Step 2, identify the core spells. Look at your list. What are the top 3 to 5 limiting beliefs you speak most frequently? These are your targets. These are the spells that have the most power over your reality right now, because you're reinforcing them constantly. Maybe it's, "I'm not good enough." Maybe it's, "I can't afford it." Maybe it's, "I'm bad at relationships." Maybe it's, "I'm stuck." Whatever they are, write them down clearly. Look at them. Recognize them for what they are. Programs, spells, not truth. Just patterns you've been repeating. Step 3, create power statements. For each limiting spell, write a new empowering statement. Not a denial of reality, not toxic positivity, but a bridge statement that's true enough to accept, but directional enough to shift you toward what you actually want. "I'm not good enough" becomes, "I am enough exactly as I am, and I'm becoming more every day." "I can't afford it" becomes, "I'm developing financial abundance. Resources flow to me." "I'm bad at relationships" becomes, "I'm learning to create healthy, loving connections. I'm stuck becomes I'm in a powerful chapter of preparation and transformation. Feel the difference? You're not lying to yourself. You're redirecting your focus. You're opening possibility instead of closing it. You're speaking process instead of permanence. Step 4, install the new spells through repetition. This is where discipline comes in. Every morning, before you touch your phone, before you let the world's frequency into your field, you stand in front of a mirror and you speak your new power statements out loud. With conviction, with emotion, with absolute certainty. Look yourself in the eyes. Speak directly to yourself. I am powerful, I am abundant, I am worthy, I am capable, I am loved, I am free. Whatever your specific statements are, speak them like you mean them, because your subconscious is listening, and it responds to conviction, not to half-hearted mumbling. Do this every morning. Do it every night before sleep. Do it whenever you catch yourself about to speak an old limiting spell. Interrupt the pattern, replace the spell. Starve the old pathway. Feed the new one. Step 5. Refuse to speak the old spells. This is non-negotiable. Every time you catch yourself about to say one of your core limiting beliefs, stop. Mid-sentence if necessary. Do not give it voice. Do not empower it. Because every time you speak it, you make it stronger. Every time you refuse to speak it, you make it weaker. This takes vigilance. This takes awareness. This takes commitment. But this is how you break free. This is how you dissolve beliefs that have been running your life for decades. You stop feeding them. You stop speaking them. You let them die from lack of attention and energy. And in their place, you speak life. You speak power. You speak possibility. You speak creation. The Bible knew this. Death and life are in the power of the tongue, not influenced by. In the power of. Your tongue determines your reality. Your speech creates your experience. Your words are the difference between limitation and liberation. This is the real magic. This is spell casting. This is how you take your power back from every system, every person, every circumstance that convinced you that you were powerless. You were never powerless. You just forgot you were holding the wand. But now you remember, and reality bends to conscious speech. Always has. Always will. So speak correctly. Speak consciously. Speak with the full understanding that every word is a spell. Every sentence is a contract with the universe. And the universe always says yes. And now that you understand this, now that the illusion is cracked, you start seeing it everywhere. You hear it in casual conversation. You hear it in the way people talk about their jobs, their bodies, their relationships, their futures. You hear spells being cast constantly, unconsciously, relentlessly. People declaring limitation like it's weather, like it's inevitable, like it's just how things are. I'm always tired. I hate Mondays. I can't catch a break. This is just how life is. Those aren't neutral statements. Those are reality contracts. Those are agreements being signed again and again with no resistance. And the universe, consciousness, reality itself, it doesn't debate you. It doesn't argue. It doesn't try to convince you otherwise. It simply says yes. It always says yes. This is the part that makes people uncomfortable. Because once you see this, you can't blame circumstances the same way anymore. You can't blame luck. You can't blame fate. You can't even fully blame other people. Because you start realizing how much of your experience has been shaped, reinforced, and maintained by what you've been saying, out loud and silently, for years. That's not guilt. That's power. Responsibility is power. Because if your words helped build this reality, your words can dismantle it and replace it. And here's something most people never consider. Silence is also a spell. What you refuse to speak matters just as much as what you do. When you stop verbalizing fear, you stop feeding it. When you stop explaining why something won't work, you stop reinforcing the walls around it. When you stop narrating your limitations, they begin to loosen. Most people think change requires massive action, huge leaps, dramatic reinvention. But the deepest changes always start with something far quieter. A shift in language, a refusal to keep saying the same story, a decision to stop narrating yourself as small. This is why ancient traditions treated words with reverence, why vows mattered, why oaths mattered, why names mattered, why knowing the true name of something was said to give power over it. Language wasn't decoration, it was instruction, it was code. Even the word spelling isn't accidental. You spell words, you cast spells through language. And spelling has always been about arrangement, putting symbols in a specific order to produce a specific effect. That's exactly what speech does to consciousness. It arranges perception, it orders experience, it defines what you notice, what you ignore, what you expect, and what you allow. Expectation is one of the most powerful forces in the human mind. An expectation is built almost entirely from language. What you expect is what you've been telling yourself is likely, normal, or inevitable. An expectation shapes behavior in subtle, invisible ways. It shapes posture, tone, energy, decision-making, risk tolerance, patience, persistence. When you expect things to go wrong, you hesitate. You second-guess. You pull back at the exact moment forward movement is required. When you expect rejection, you soften your voice. You avoid eye contact. You undercut yourself before anyone else can. When you expect scarcity, you rush. You hoard. You make fear-based choices that recreate the very lack you're trying to avoid. None of that is conscious. It's automatic. It's subconscious obedience to a script you've been reading for years. And that script is written in words. This is why changing your speech feels uncomfortable at first, because you're interrupting identity. You're interrupting familiarity. The old words feel true, not because they are, but because they're familiar. They've been rehearsed, they've been practiced, they've been reinforced. New words feel fake only because they're new, but repetition is what turns unfamiliar into normal. Repetition is what turns intention into identity. This is also why emotion matters. Words spoken without emotion are weak signals. Words spoken with emotion are commands. Emotion is the energy that carries language into the subconscious. That's why moments of intense emotion, trauma, shame, fear, humiliation, program beliefs so deeply. The emotion amplifies the words. It stamps them into the nervous system. But you can use that same mechanism consciously. You can pair new language with conviction, presence, and feeling. You can install new programs deliberately instead of accidentally. This is why speaking out loud matters so much. Sound is vibration. Vibration moves through your body. It stimulates the vagus nerve. It affects heart rate, breathing, muscle tension. Your entire nervous system responds to your voice. Not just what you say, but how you say it. When you speak with certainty, your body organizes around certainty. When you speak with doubt, your body collapses around doubt. This isn't philosophy. This is physiology. Watch how your posture changes when you say, I can't. Watch how it changes when you say, I will. Those shifts aren't symbolic. They're mechanical. And those mechanics influence behavior, which influences outcomes. This is why the phrase, fake it till you make it, only works when it's misunderstood. It's not about lying. It's about rehearsal. It's about practicing a new frequency until it becomes natural. Actors rehearse lines until they stop feeling like lines and start feeling like truth. Your identity works the same way. You rehearse limitation, you become limited. You rehearse expansion, you expand. And here's something critical. You don't need to convince anyone else. This isn't about impressing people. This is about reprogramming you. The audience that matters is your subconscious, and your subconscious is always listening. That's why sarcasm is dangerous when directed at yourself. Oh yeah, great job, genius. The conscious mind thinks it's joking. The subconscious hears contempt, and contempt is corrosive. It eats away at confidence quietly, steadily, over time. That's why self-deprecating humor has a cost. It may get laughs. It may feel harmless. But every joke is still a statement. And statements repeated become beliefs. You don't need to be harsh with yourself to be humble. Humility isn't self-erasure, it's clarity. And clarity requires language that's accurate, not abusive. The goal isn't to inflate the ego. The goal is to stop attacking yourself with words that sabotage your own nervous system. And once you do that, something interesting happens. Your environment starts responding differently. Not magically, not instantly, but subtly and consistently. Conversations shift. People treat you differently. Opportunities appear where there were none before. Not because the world changed, but because you did. And the world reacts to that change. This is why two people can be in the same situation and have completely different outcomes. Same city, same economy, same resources, different language, different internal narratives, different frequencies. Language shapes attention. Attention shapes reality. What you name becomes what you notice. What you notice becomes what you engage with. What you engage with becomes what grows. This is why complaining is such a powerful trap. Complaints feel justified. They feel like truth-telling. But every complaint is a rehearsal of what you don't want. Every complaint is extended focus on lack, dysfunction, frustration. And focus is fuel. This doesn't mean ignoring problems. It means choosing language that empowers action instead of paralysis. This is challenging, creates a different internal response than "this is impossible." One invites strategy, the other shuts it down. The difference is a word, but the impact is a life. And once you start practicing this, once you start catching yourself, redirecting, choosing words intentionally, you begin to feel something most people never feel. Agency. Not control over everything, but control over your response. Control over your narrative. Control over the signal you're sending into the world. And that signal matters more than you've been taught. Because the world isn't just something that happens to you. It's something you're in constant conversation with. And words are how that conversation happens. So you stop saying, "I hope." You start saying, "I decide." You stop saying, "I wish." You start saying, "I choose." You stop saying, "maybe someday." You start saying, "now." Not recklessly, not arrogantly, but deliberately. You speak as someone who understands that language is causation, not commentary. And the more you do this, the less you feel like a victim of circumstance, and the more you feel like a participant in creation. That's the shift. That's the awakening. Not fireworks, not instant miracles, but a quiet, steady reclamation of authorship. You become the narrator again. And whoever narrates controls the story. This is why mastery of speech is mastery of self. And mastery of self is mastery of experience. You don't need permission to start. You don't need belief from anyone else. You don't need perfect confidence. You just need consistency. Words, repeated, become worlds. And now that you know this, the choice is unavoidable. Every sentence becomes a fork in the road. Every phrase either reinforces the old reality or builds the new one. There is no neutral language, only conscious creation or unconscious repetition. So speak like it matters. Because it does. And once this clicks, once it lands fully, you realize something unsettling and liberating at the same time. You were never trapped by circumstances. You were trapped by narration, by the running commentary you inherited, adopted, and repeated until it became invisible. The prison was linguistic long before it was physical, and freedom begins the moment you stop agreeing with the old script. Because here's the truth most people never confront. Reality is negotiable, but only through language, not through wishing, not through effort alone, through declaration, through definition, through what you consistently say is possible, normal, expected, and allowed. Your life follows those definitions with brutal loyalty. Think about how quickly people defend their limitations. That's just how I am. That's just how things work. People like me don't get that. Those statements aren't observations. They're vows. They're promises to stay exactly where they are, and the subconscious treats them as law. This is why arguing for your limitations feels so convincing, because the moment you speak them, your nervous system locks into coherence with them. Your body relaxes into familiarity. There's comfort in the known, even when the known is painful. And your brain prefers a familiar hell to an unfamiliar heaven. Language keeps you there. But the moment you start speaking differently, the system resists. It feels awkward, fake, unnatural. And that discomfort is the signal you're doing it right. That discomfort is the old identity destabilizing. That's the old program losing authority. Growth always feels like dissonance before it feels like alignment. This is why consistency matters more than intensity. You don't need to shout affirmations once and expect transformation. You need to whisper new truths daily until they replace the old ones. Reality doesn't respond to drama. It responds to repetition. And repetition is how all conditioning works. The world conditioned you through repetition. Advertising, school, media, family, culture. The same phrases over and over until they felt like common sense. You undo that the same way. New language, same repetition, different outcome. This is also why your environment matters. The people you're around are constantly speaking spells into your field. Listen closely. Are they reinforcing scarcity or possibility? Fear or expansion? Victimhood or agency? You don't need to cut everyone off, but you do need to be conscious, because language is contagious, and unconscious speech infects faster than conscious intention. If you stay immersed in conversations that constantly declare limitation, you'll feel drained no matter how disciplined you are internally. That's not weakness, that's resonance. Your system is responding to frequency. Choose environments where the dominant language supports growth, even if it challenges you. And here's something even deeper. The way you speak about others is the way you speak about life itself. Judgment is a spell you cast outward that always rebounds inward. When you constantly label others as incompetent, selfish, stupid, or broken, you're reinforcing a worldview where those traits are dominant. And your subconscious doesn't exempt you from the reality it's creating. This is why Florence Scovel Shinn emphasized blessing others, not just yourself. Blessing is alignment. It tunes you to expansion. It trains your mind to expect good, to notice opportunity, to assume favorable outcomes. An assumption is one of the most powerful creative forces there is. What you assume becomes your baseline. What becomes your baseline becomes invisible. And what's invisible becomes reality. This is why people who expect things to work out seem lucky. They're not lucky. They're aligned. Their language trained their expectations, and their expectations shape their perception. They see doors others walk past. They try things others dismiss. They persist where others quit, not because they're better, but because they're speaking a different reality into existence. And the opposite is also true. People who constantly speak failure become experts at finding it. They notice obstacles instantly. They anticipate rejection before it happens. They prepare excuses in advance, not consciously, automatically. Language trained them to. This is why the phrase, "watch what you say," is far more profound than it sounds. It's not about politeness. It's about authorship. It's about realizing that every sentence is a brushstroke on the canvas of your life. And once you see this, you stop wasting words. You stop narrating pain unnecessarily. You stop rehearsing fear. You stop explaining why something won't work. Not because you're in denial, but because you understand cost. Every word has a cost. Every phrase either builds or erodes. This doesn't mean pretending everything is perfect. It means choosing language that creates movement instead of stagnation, precision instead of despair, agency instead of helplessness. There's a challenge here, creates a different future than "this is a disaster." I'm learning creates a different trajectory than "I always mess this up." This isn't aligned creates a different outcome than "nothing ever works." Same situation, different words, completely different realities, and eventually something remarkable happens. You stop needing to monitor every word. The new language becomes natural, automatic. The inner voice softens. The nervous system stabilizes. Confidence stops being something you perform and starts being something you inhabit. That's when the real shift occurs. Because at that point, you're no longer forcing change. You're embodying it. And embodiment is what reality responds to most strongly. This is why the most powerful people don't talk the most. They speak deliberately. When they speak, it lands. Because their words are congruent with their identity. They're not trying to convince. They're declaring. And you don't need to dominate conversations to do this. Your private language matters just as much, especially the things you say when no one else is listening. That's where the deepest programming happens. That's where identity is reinforced or rewritten. So the practice is simple, but not easy. Notice, interrupt, redirect, repeat, over and over, day after day, until the new voice becomes the default and the old one fades into irrelevance. And one day, without fanfare, you'll realize something changed. Your reactions are different. Your choices are different. Your results are different. Not because the world transformed overnight, but because you did, and the world followed. That's the power they never explained. Not because it's mystical, but because it's destabilizing. A person who controls their language controls their perception. A person who controls their perception cannot be easily controlled. And once you understand that, you stop waiting for permission. You stop waiting for validation. You stop waiting for circumstances to change before you do. You speak first, and reality responds. Always. If this hit you, if something shifted, if you felt that recognition deep in your chest, I need you to do something right now. Drop a comment and tell me, what's one spell, one limiting belief you're breaking starting today? What are you going to stop saying to yourself? I'm reading every single one. Let's hold each other accountable. Let's build a community of conscious speakers who refuse to curse themselves anymore. And subscribe, because this is just the beginning. There's so much more about reality creation, about frequency, about the hidden mechanics of manifestation that they've kept from you. We're bringing it all to light. Every secret, every technique, every truth.